Meeting to order, HPC meeting. What is today?
22nd.
October 22nd, yes. Okay, can we have a roll call? Let's start with Will.
Will Roddybush here.
Jeff Howes here.
John Sampen here.
Heidi Rieger.
And Christina Tracy cannot be here today, our fifth member. Our next meeting, administrative items, our next meeting,
Excuse me.
I beg your pardon, approval of minutes. Thank you.
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes for September 24th.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any, no negatives, so minutes are approved. Now, administrative items. Our next meeting is November 26, 2024. Are we all good for that? Okay.
Okay.
Close to Thanksgiving, though.
We have the week of
Very
Thanksgiving.
close.
I'll be there.
Do you have a,
There, yes.
you'll be there, you're good, okay. BG Song, any, Heidi, any information?
I didn't go. Did you go?
Okay. I did go to the workshop. I think it was a big success. I see that Rose Drain just walked in. Thank you for being here, all of you. No, it was a 5-hour Saturday that we shared with 70 people and talked about many subjects about our town of Bowling Green and how we might help with the 4 basic things: revitalization of the properties, public transit possibilities, sustainability and resiliency task force to prepare for climate change, and development of new housing options within the city. So I think it was a big success, and we'll continue updating you on that. But we did also talk a little bit about some historic areas of the city and our mutual interest in helping preserve our Bowling Green history. Any other comments on that? Okay. At one of our past meetings, we had talked about the Boomtown $1,000 that had been gifted to our HPC, and we never really decided for sure how we will be using that. We had some suggestions about creating a sign at the site of the Martindale House on Haskins. I don't know if that's something we want to decide today. Will, do you have anything to say?
I looked at signage a little bit, and it ranged up to about $4,000. So I'm not sure it would be enough, and the timing of designing a sign for the site. And there is a sign grant that's available. I think you apply for it by May 1st, but it's for $1,000 with the state. But I'll talk about it more when I talk about the house.
Okay. So
I would probably not use it towards that for right now.
Heather, is it okay if we hold on to that for a little bit longer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You had an idea at the last meeting, Heather, and I would have to dig into the minutes to recall it. Do you recall?
I think I just talked about writing about it in the report, that it would go towards the CLG grant
Right,
matching, but
Yeah.
I've already submitted the report and hopefully the check's in the mail.
Okay, thank you. There have been no updates, as far as I know, about Darren Farr and his Singapore, his proposal for the Black Swamp Festival in 2025. We'll keep that on the agenda. Maybe we will hear more in the future. I don't know if anybody else had any information from him. No, okay. Heather, transportation sign grants. You had suggested considering a proposal for the historic transportation marker grant program. Do you have any information for us?
Nothing else. Mm-mm. I think it's just something we could have on the calendar maybe for next year to plan for.
We've missed the deadline for this year. Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. So we'll save that project for 2025. Local designations. Update on the former South Main School.
Excuse me, before we proceed, on my agenda, there's the presentations to Rotary and Kiwanis. Is that next?
I'll look at my other agenda.
Okay.
Okay, yes, thank you. The October 31st Rotary and then the Kiwanis on November 7th. So I know we had some changing around of who might be presenting. Where are we at now? Jeff, can you update us?
Let's see if I can update us and with help from others who are involved. For the Rotary, it's probable, if not definite, that Dick won't be able to make it. So I will join Jan and Heather for that one. And I guess the same at Kiwanis. So.
November 7th. And are we okay with the PowerPoint that we had used before, or?
I'm working on adapting it. I haven't finished it yet. I haven't had a whole lot of time, but it's definitely on my to-do list.
Okay, great.
We have a title for it, because I know in Kiwanis, they're gonna want to introduce one.
Yeah.
Same thing with Rotary.
You have a title. Are you keeping that as, don't have it?
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Bowling Green sign project or whatever.
okay.
All right, I'll make something up.
Okay, thanks.
I think the PowerPoint just has historical signage update or something the last
Okay.
time we used it.
And so it'd be Heather, Jeff, and Janet, Rotary, and then I'll help, or I can be there for
For Kiwanis, and I'll be there anyway. Yeah.
Okay, now, former South Main School update. There has been a little bit of activity, and we maybe can share some things. Rose, would you be willing to tell us where we're at?
So a group of us were able to go to South Main School, and the person who, on behalf of the owner who's in California, she has keys. She used to, it's the Casabella Cleaning Service who used to clean the school when it was a daycare center, I think, some years ago. Anyhow, so a group of us went and visited the building and saw the condition of the inside. It seems to be in fairly good shape, with the exception of the flat roof, which is over the gymnasium, is compromised, so there's some water damage in that area. But the school, for a building that was built in 1890, seems like it's got very good bones and has a lot of possibilities. So the group of us that visited hopes to talk in the near future about some ideas for the school and may be able to act on those. That would be dependent upon having some investors. So I will be able to maybe give you more information in the future, but that's about all for now, just that we got in the school. It looks like it's got fabulous possibilities.
I know there've been a couple meetings. I was able to attend one the other day, and there is some great excitement about that possibility, and we'd like to continue investigating that. Heather, you had suggested possibly putting that building on the National Register.
Yes.
Is that a process that could be happening very fast, or is this a year-long nomination process?
So just coming back from the Heritage Ohio conference that I was at for 3 days last week gave me some ideas. Not to go into too much detail, but there was a session where several schools have been basically changed from being shuttered to apartments or senior housing, et cetera. And a lot of those were done, using historic tax credits. Some of them are, they're very unique projects depending on who they were designed for. Low income housing tax credits was one of the projects, along with tax credits. There's just a lot of different types of capital stacks you can do. But to get the tax credits, you have to be on the National Register or locally designated. And I also sat through a couple sessions about the National Register and how a nomination happens. And it takes a significant amount of time to write that properly and have it reviewed by the state and then National Park Service. But it just gave me the idea that, that's kind of a first step to getting that potential financial assistance that an investor would be interested in. And there's a questionnaire you can fill out, preliminary questionnaire. I have a copy of that. And that's the first step to starting that process. But it does take a while. I mean, normally it's several months to have it reviewed, write it up properly. You have to address the 4 criteria and, again, have that preliminary review, the back and forth between the State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service. And of course, being a certified local government, we would have a say in that. But anybody can apply for a building to be on the National Register. It doesn't have to be the owner. The owner is notified and a public hearing has to be held by the state, but otherwise you don't have to have owner consent, because at the end of the day, it's more about notoriety and recognizing the importance and significance of that building. Another interesting fact is that condition doesn't matter to be on the National Register. They had examples of schools that had been added to the National Register. And, a lot of the pictures aren't very flattering because of the condition, but it doesn't matter. It's about the integrity of the history and of the use of that building. So I thought that was interesting.
Does that help preserve the building so that it cannot be destroyed or demolished?
No, but it allows you to have that first step of being able to have tax credits.
Okay.
You can't apply for historic tax credits without being on the National Register or locally designated.
Does it make any sense for us to proceed with the local designation? Or in that case, I should know this, of course, but do we need to does the owner need to initiate that
The
locally?
way our ordinance is written, it does seem like individual listings are about owner more so than a district. That's how I read it. Of course, anything's open to interpretation. We can relook at that. It just seemed like the National Register was kind of like the first step for notoriety and having, again, be able to get those at least federal tax credits.
Good.
So, I mean, my biggest concern would be it's like ADA adaptability, like accessibility, since it's a 3.5-story building. If they turned it into something else, that would be a huge expense.
Well, so ironic. I listened to a 3-hour session about the building code and historic buildings, and it's actually really fascinating what people have done to make them accessible. They gave an example of, I can't remember what was that. It was a downtown building that was at least 5 or 6 stories, and they ended up making it lofts. And they did have to add an elevator, but it actually worked out perfect. The way a staircase had been dilapidated, they were able to replace the staircase with the elevator. So, I mean, there's always,
Well,
if you have the passion, the will, and the people to do it, this is all I heard for 3 days. So, mind you, this
No,
was the
I-
audience, and it was just to see the end result is absolutely amazing. And the people that are living there and using these facilities and revitalizing downtowns is quite amazing.
Yeah, I went on an architecture tour of downtown warehouse district in Toledo, and they cut out whole floors and put in. I mean, it's all about the money, and they sunk piers in to hold the building up, and I mean, just huge amounts of money. So it's just a matter of finding someone who would be able to do that.
And a lot of these projects, they can't be done without historic tax credits. That's just how they happen. So.
Well,
This past month on TV, there was a show, and it showed us Fremont School Apartments. It's at 600 Magnolia Street in Spartanburg, South Carolina. This is for, you can take this, Rose. I Google Earthed it and looked at it. It's a really fancy building. It was built in 1915, and it's low-income apartments. They talked about the developer, I think, was out of Atlanta, but it might be worth looking into. I just looked at it this afternoon, and
Heather shared with me the questionnaire nomination process. Maybe we can share that with the commission. We could all look at that and put that on the agenda for next time to consider.
I was along on Friday looking at the building, and I was very impressed. We were speaking of passion, by the passion of the people who were looking at that building. I thought, this is inspiring. So
Well, and that's what happened with the session I was at. It was Cleveland, and I forgot. I think the school was called Longfellow, and they said the impact was greater to the neighborhood than they thought it would be because the neighborhood was a bit dilapidated around the school. And once they made the senior housing, and they actually had more land there so they could add to the building and make it work, people started investing all in their homes around the school. So it was really an interesting story. Of course, they had a lot of different parties helping, and of course, architects and engineers. But now it's a home for several hundreds of seniors that are living there. But it was interesting because the classroom size, they just made into apartments. The exact size of the classroom met the low-income housing tax credit minimum size requirements. So it worked out really well for them. It was actually larger than they were required to do. So it just seemed to work out pretty well for them.
Any other discussion? Well, I appreciate all the interest, public interest in that building, and I hope we can figure out ways to help move that forward. We will keep that high on our agenda for future meetings and for working with BG Song on that project. Good. The former hospital update, I have no new news on the Anissa Miller and that 416 West Worcester building. I know that they've just paved a driveway, so there's some improvements, and it looks like they're perhaps in the process of doing a new roof for that space.
yeah, the driveway's for done. Sure.
We had other possible sites. We want to keep this on our agenda, the old mill in the Hannah House as possible local designations, and discussion about the former grill, the corner grill. Yeah, Will.
I would like to have you add to the agenda 625 Haskins Road. As possibly I met with the owner last week and took a copy of the ordinance chapter 158 and a copy of the inventory just for them to see and a copy of the consent letter. So, and kind of went over those with the owner. And my intent would be to try to go through and have an inventory maybe for next month.
Who is the owner?
The owner's Joe Vernon. She's lived in the house since she was 7. She's 90. And she is interested also in a sign for recognizing the site. And I kind of drafted something maybe for the sign. And today when I was looking at the Ohio, I think was a sign grant, and they showed they're the ones that do funding, say, for corporation signs for when you go into a town. And they're talking about for people driving by, they limit the signs to 15 words. In other words, they don't want something real wordy. And mine, I came up with, say, the first house in Bowling Green was constructed on this site by Elijah Martindale in 1833. This is kind of the draft of it right now.
Great.
But yeah, she took me down the basement, showed me that house that's there at 625 Haskins sat on this property. There was 3, I think 2 houses and a business. And I think around 1910, a postmaster had them vacate because they're going to build the post office. And then reading Van Tassel's book, I think the post office was maybe built in 1914. I think there's a post office, and I have a feeling it was this one. But that house was moved to where it's at now. So the foundation that's under that house, I think there may have been another house there before it, but it wasn't the Martindale cabin. It apparently sat where the garage is now. And I think in the BG Sesquicentennial magazine, it even has a picture of the house that's there now. And I think it describes the Martindale cabin as being maybe where the garage is now. It used to be a barn, but it deteriorated. Very interesting to go in there and see the basement and the old rocks and that were there, probably from the house that was built after the cabin. And then for this one that was moved from here to that foundation, probably.
Wow,
Yeah, it's very interesting.
great. Good research. So you're going to work with
Yes.
them in
Yep.
a possible,
Try to have something if I can by
okay,
next meeting, if possible,
Sounds-
within a month or 2.
sounds great. Okay. Friends of the HPC, number 5. This deals with our house or building or site of the month. We've, of course, had one site, which was the golf course. But I think this is continuing to be a very popular item each month. I always look forward to reading what our colleagues and friends have written about their homes and buildings. So at the moment, we have just celebrated the Hannah House, which Jeff spearheaded. Thank you for that, Jeff. That's a great article. November, Jeff is on deck again for glass factories, the former buildings and glass factories around the city of Bowling Green.
I just finished that today, so it's ready to, or almost ready at least.
That's excellent.
A couple of more eyes on it.
December, we not quite sure about whether it's going to be a Painted Lady as written by the students of Becky Mancuso, or if Jeff and Dale Arnold will be doing the Ivy Hall. Do we need to know that now? Look, I think we can wait another month or so.
I'll drop a note to
Okay.
to Becky.
And then February, the Turos House, hopefully written by the homeowners. That's on Prospect and Clough. And we're always open for new nominations for houses and buildings of the month. So anyone here or locally that would like to nominate buildings, we appreciate that. we're moving quickly through our agenda today. I'm at number 6, public relations and educational projects. Past workshops, the Wood County District Public Library, Discovering Your Family Tree series. There's one more upcoming meeting on that on the 30th of October. There are also gatherings on the 2nd and the 16th of October. Wood County Museum, First Fridays, Make It or Take It craft. That happened on October 4th. Tell Your History at Junipers. I think we talked about that a little bit, but maybe we should discuss it again. I know most of us were there for that gathering. It was a very small turnout, and if we do it again, we hopefully can advertise a bit more and gather some of our townspeople to come in and tell their stories. We were thinking of making this quarterly, and as far as I know, we haven't arrived at a date for that. Are we talking about after the holidays, the Christmas holidays?
Certainly after the holidays, I think.
Yeah. Okay, and Christina unfortunately is not here to help us choose a date, but we can deal with that next month at our November meeting.
And we discussed ways of making it sound less intimidating. Something like "let's talk about" rather than "tell your story," so people don't feel like they have to get up in front of the group. They may eventually anyway, but I like the idea of starting it with some kind of presentation and then people,
Feel comfortable.
yeah.
Heritage Ohio Annual Conference. Heather, you had some information on that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I attended that last week for 3 days. I hope to have copies of the slides, and then I can share the slides. Of course, I couldn't go to all the sessions because they'll have a lot of good sessions all at the same time, and you have to pick one. But a lot of interesting things. Building code basics, I mentioned. A session about historic properties as affordable housing. I attended the Heritage Ohio Awards ceremony, which was interesting to see what other big projects are going on in Ohio. Attended National Register of Historic Properties or Places and how to amend national registers, for example. I attended Financial Tools for Successful Rehab Projects, which is very complicated, by the way, but it was interesting to hear from an attorney, and a bank, and a state representative. Attended the Single Family Tax Credit Program, which is new in Ohio, but it's an interesting program that they're really pushing communities to look closer at. I also attended Revitalizing Your Community When There's No Developer, and figuring out basically how you can do that on your own. And I also attended Changing Your Community's Perceptions of Your Downtown, and it was basically focused on Newark, Ohio, where the conference was and all the effort they've put into their downtown revitalization, streetscape, rehabbing buildings, adding loft apartments. It was pretty interesting. They have a very active Licking County Foundation, it's called, and they do a lot of fundraising and a lot of projects there. They also have a very active Community Improvement Corporation that will actually purchase buildings and rehab them. So they had some real blight in their downtown and housing. I mean, housing that is unsafe, falling in, and they've been doing a lot to correct that situation. So very interesting, and I don't know, just nice to meet other people. I saw one of our former members, Chris Moen, there.
Was she there?
She was there with her company, and it was just good to learn what's going on in Ohio.
Did you say you had some slides to show?
They are supposed to be sending us all of the PowerPoints that were presented, so I haven't got any information on that yet, though.
Is that something we could show next meeting? Would that be valuable for this
It would
commission?
probably be too much because it was 3 full days of sessions.
Okay.
But certainly there should be a link that I could share and you could look through, and if you have any other questions, we could get information.
That'd be
But it's
great.
kind of interesting because it's, they have communities there that are tiny communities like Ottawa, Ohio, of 4,500 people, doing big things in their downtown, all the way to, places like Toledo and Cleveland and Cincinnati. So it's just kind of a neat cross-section of the of the state that attends.
Great, thank
It's a
you.
beautiful theater. Oh my gosh. They have a beautiful theater there called Midland Theater. And all these organizations got together and really saved it and put a lot of money into it. And that's where a lot of the sessions were. And it's just pretty amazing what they did with the building.
Was it always in October every year?
Typically, yeah.
I'd love to go to it, but
I know.
so bad weekend, anniversary weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you for attending that, Heather, and look forward to hearing more about your. It was 2 days, 3 days.
3 days.
3 days, big commitment, but thank you for being there.
Sure.
I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. The Buttonwood designation for Charles and Jean Ladd, has that been finalized now? Are we've had a public hearing last meeting. What is the next step on that?
So City Council referred it to the Planning Commission. So Planning Commission will make a recommendation at their
Okay,
November
so
meeting.
that goes through them, the
Right,
planning
and
as
then-
well. Okay.
That'll go back to council and they'll have to schedule another public hearing.
Okay, thank you. And then an update on the North Maple District. The Planning Commission passed the proposal on October 2nd, and then City Council considered the proposal yesterday and has now scheduled a public hearing for December 2nd. So that seems to be moving forward with reasonable speed. I guess. I know these things take a long time, but we appreciate that has been forwarded and perhaps nearing the end of the decision making on that project. Okay. That is the ending of our agenda, except for lobby visitation. So we're I'd like to welcome any of our guests to share.
Just wanted to give a quick update on the tour we did on Saturday. It was part of the BG Pedal, and they had done through the university for their family weekend, and jointly with the Chamber of Commerce and the university's planning that for these events. They scheduled 3 tours and about an hour and a half historical tours, and we went all around the city and talked about the different buildings. When the university said they were going to do this, I thought they're never going to. Who's going to come to this from the university? We all sold out all 3 of the tours. The problem was we broke down and didn't do the 3rd one, so we only had 2. But very enthusiastic group, and they're from all over, and they were all parents, students, and siblings were on there too. And so it was a nice experience, and I'm hoping they'll do it again next year for family weekend because of the beautiful day too, which makes a big difference. The other thing, just as an awareness, and Jan, you may be aware of this, I met yesterday with Sean Reeves, and she said she knows you. Heidi?
Heidi Bisbee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. They purchased Dr. Lincoln's house, just right here, and have big plans with that of restoring it and making it into. I'm not exactly sure what. I said like a bed and breakfast. She said no, I'm not real sure yet. But I think they want to restore it. Right now it's student housing, and will be, I think, until July of 25, and then they plan to take over and start fixing it up. So I don't know if there would be in any, they might need some help on, some of these different grants and stuff that they could get. So I just make you aware. I don't know where they're going with it, but they were certainly enthused about and that's a beautiful old house with a lot of history. And inside, I was in it once, and it's pretty good shape inside for being a student housing all those years. But it's a nice location, and it's got a lot of potential. So hopefully they can do something with it.
I'm sorry, which one is it again?
Well, I don't know the number. Heather, it's like
I think it's like 325.
Is it this yellow one?
It's,
Or
Yeah, I
it's
think it's
right
325
before
North Main.
the brick house that's on the corner of Clay. It's this
Okay.
side. There's
Okay,
a yellow
yeah.
house,
Is
which
it
is
a-
fairly new, right next to it, and this sits back a little bit. It's kind of on the marginally run down when you look at it, but it was Dr. Lincoln's house. It was built in the late 1800s. I have the story. It burned in 1895, and I've got the story on that, and it burned the whole roof off. And I have the picture, it was in the Sentinel, of the house before the fire, and then, of course, you can see what it looks like now, and it's amazingly the same, except the roof is totally different from what it was in 1895. Obviously, they replaced it, so.
Great, thank you, Dick.
I can follow up. I have been in touch with Heidi. We've been playing message tag this week, and I am hoping to meet with them sometime next week. I just did a lot of research for the ladies, the Shakespeare, the founders of the Shakespeare Roundtable. And so I have a lot of information about Nettie Lincoln in particular. And my hope is that once I get through some of these projects, maybe next year, to kind of take what I have with the ladies themselves and connect them with their homes, and then maybe we can establish, another tour or something. So I'm really excited to hear that they're purchasing that home, because I do have some pictures of some of the homes that we could identify. Several of them have been torn down, but we do know where most of the ladies lived. And so that'll be wonderful if we can tie that in with that property. So
Maybe-
that's a good thing.
Maybe you can do a bike tour of the Shakespeare women.
Well, what I had hoped to do initially was to do what you did with the cart,
Yeah.
pedal cart,
That'd be great.
and put it together just for our Shakespeare club, but it didn't happen yet.
They're very good to work with, the BG pedal.
So I have a little funny thing to say about the fact that people had thought that our house was the Lincoln House. And then when I did some research on the Lincoln House, I found out that there was a fire. And we knew our house had never had a fire. We didn't think our house had ever had a fire. So then I found out that the Lincoln House was actually that house, 2 doors down from here. And that's when I had to dig deeper to find out who built our house. So it's very kind of convoluted. I have an idea about Tell Your BG History, that could possibly be in collaboration with the Wood County Committee on Aging Lively You program, because it would be fun to get some of the people who enjoy the Lively You, who have been longtime BG residents, engaged by posting it as a Lively You class. And it could still be at Juniper. I don't think they have to have their classes at the Wood County Committee on Aging, but that could also be a good space for it. So there was that. And
Can you tell me, because I don't know very much about the Lively You?
oh yeah, so if you have an idea for a Lively You class, this is October, you probably need to be in touch with Wood County Committee on Aging staff, because they will be getting programs ready for spring, Lively You spring semester. Probably the January newsletter of the Committee on Aging will have what the Lively You programs are for spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Claire Fiore is the program.
Okay.
Person.
Yeah. Good. I didn't know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I participated in that. It's just volunteer and do it 1 or 2 times or once or whatever works for your schedule. So.
Hi, do I have to announce where I live and all that stuff like city council?
David Drain. Well, we're a little more informal.
Oh,
so-
that's good. That's good. Well, I'm going to do something unusual. You probably never heard this here. I'm going to thank you. Will Rodebush came over because we had a problem at Trinity United Methodist Church. Our stairs looked like they're really old and need some care. So he came over and had a look at them because the original plan the church trustees had come up with was to demolish the stairs and replace them with concrete steps. And Will came over and we had a look at it and he said, oh, you could just lift those out. They're not broken. Lift them out, clean them up, put them back. So we were put in touch with Chris Moen, who found us some contractors who can actually do that. And we got some quotes. And the big surprise was the cost for taking the steps out, cleaning them up, backfilling, putting them back is going to be around $13,000. The concrete steps probably would have cost us $25,000 to $30,000. So historic preservation can actually save you money. I had no idea. I was totally dumbfounded by that. Our 150th anniversary is coming up for Trinity United Methodist in October next year. And we hope to have the stairs all cleaned up and in place by then. So this is a good example of how historic preservation can cooperate with the citizens. It was entirely informal. We didn't pay Will anything at all.
We just sat and talked on the porch afterwards.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that.
So that worked out very well, and I'm very grateful you're here. Thank you.
I might add, I stopped at the Presbyterian Church today because the stone. You look at the steps. I thought they were sandstone because yours are sandstone, not limestone. I'm pretty sure. And I looked at those, and I think they are concrete, like a fine aggregate. And I don't think they're wearing like the sandstone.
They aren't that old.
No.
They were put in the 80s.
So I think the sandstone.
Yeah, 1980s.
I think that's good that you're able to do
Yeah,
that.
we're figuring it's probably good for another 100 years or so.
You can't. I don't think you can see wear on them.
That's great. Thank you. Jan Knapp again?
I do have a request. The Shakespeare ladies are looking for 2 paintings by Nettie Lincoln. One of them did hang in the Presbyterian Church, and people remember it being there, but it has disappeared somehow when they were cleaning things out, or it may be in someone's home. We don't know. There are 3 existing. One of them was at the university in a building, but that also has gone missing. So if anyone knows anything about those or wants to go digging, please let me know if you find anything.
Do you have pictures of what they look like?
No, we don't have any pictures. I think they were landscapes. She was quite well known, apparently, for her paintings and quite accomplished. And coincidentally, I just visited the Stan Hewitt property, and I think her name is Gertrude. The wife of the owner there was also quite an accomplished painter, and I happened to purchase her book thinking that it would give me an idea of what Nettie Lincoln's paintings looked like. And both of them had lived very comparable lives. Of course, Gertrude was much wealthier than Nettie Lincoln, but they both went to the Laguna Beach area in the winter and painted there. So I'm thinking some of their paintings might be very similar. Both of them hosted classes to educate their friends and neighbors on painting techniques. And so it was just striking the similarity between those 2 women from the early 1900s. It was very fascinating.
Thank you. I should mention that Dick Martin just handed me a few minutes ago a book donated by Joyce Kepke, How to Complete the Ohio Historic Inventory. And it looks like a pretty detailed book. And also, I haven't looked in this folder yet. but some other historic information that Joyce had collected. So we want to just publicly thank her for bringing those to our attention. Good. Any other business? Do we have a suggestion for adjournment?
I'd make a motion that we adjourn from this very good meeting.
I second.
Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.